So the next weapon we are going to be covering is the jerry-rigged boomstick, or more simply put, the shotgun. It's one of the 2 shotguns in the game, and pretty much this and the engineer shotgun, in my opinion, is quite lackluster. This is your starting secondary weapon by default. You have access to it at the start of the game. It's designed as a close range, high damage option with a relatively low ammo and low damage count. The way it works, being a shotgun, is each pull of the trigger will fire off a blast of pellets. Each one of those pellets deals damage. However, each pellet doesn't travel that far, which means they spread out as they travel. So in order to ensure that most of the pellets hit, it's used as a close range option. Although you can hit things at mid to long range, the accuracy is absolutely terrible. By default, the weapon has 8 pellets, each pellet dealing 12 damage per hit. This means that if you hit 1 pellet, you do a minimum of 12 damage, and if you hit 8 pellets, you do a maximum of 90 damage. This is enough to one-shot grunts on lower difficulties without headshot hits, and each pellet does have a chance to get bonus damage on weak point and on pellet, a stun chance. Each pellet has a 30% chance to stun, which means it's a guaranteed stun if you don't kill what you're trying to shoot, as long as you get 3 pellets to hit. And the stun duration is 2.5 seconds. That's not 2.5 seconds per pellet, by the way. That's just a stun of 2.5 seconds. The gun only holds 2 rounds, and it has a maximum ammo of 24, meaning you get 12 reloads. You can fire both rounds off in a little bit more than a second, and it takes 2 seconds to reload. So as fast as you can pull the trigger, you can reload the damn thing. Look at it that way. It also has a slight shockwave damage. So the AoE, it deals 20 damage in a small radius in front of the gun, in front of the barrel of the gun. This is important to understand. So if you literally have the barrel jammed in something's face, it takes a bonus 20 damage. That damage has a fall-off range on it of 1.4 meters. It's very important to note how that works. Looking at the modifiers, you actually have a few choices here that overlap. Most notably, you have 2 extra ammo modifiers here. You also have a bonus damage and a bonus pellets modifier in the same categories. While not exactly the same, it's important to understand how that works. So we're going to cover the tier 5 modifiers first. This is supposed to be your mini overclock wave. In my opinion, these suck. Unfortunately, almost all of this tier of add-ons suck for the Scout. Just for my style of play, which is a bit more slower and methodical. This is your primary weapon, by the way, for running around shooting things in the face. So if you like to be a run-and-gun style gamer, you're going to like this. The first modifier that we have is your crowd control option. One of them. You have the fear chance. This gives you a 50% chance whenever you pull the trigger to scare any nearby creatures when you shoot the same radius as your front shockwave, but in a radius around you, so 1.4 meters. While this is nice for fearing enemies, the problem with this modifier is it normally takes the enemy out of your effective range. Well, out of 1 or 2 shot range, that is. I hate this modifier. I don't understand why they tied this. This fear chance should have been tied, in my opinion, to a pellets. If each pellet had, say, a 20 or 25% chance of fearing an enemy on hit, then it would be good because I could spray into a crowd and fear a few of them. This is terrible because it sends them running away from my effective range. Mind you, there is no real range modifier outside of tightening your spread. This one right here is the auto reload. The way this works is if you have the gun unequipped for 5 seconds or longer, the gun automatically refills itself. It's a 2-second reload. It has 2 shots in it. The Born Ready perk exists, although it's not great with the Scout. I really don't feel this being that impactful, especially because there is a reload speed modifier up the top. Personally, if I'm switching to the Boomstick and then switching back, I will reload it. So the primary option that I take is the white Phosphorus shells. Now, normally I do not run these types of perks. What this does is it converts some of the damage to fire damage. Alright? This converts 50% of the damage that each pellet deals into fire. However, important to note, that 50% damage doesn't go away. It's not converted to heat, it's converted to fire. That's a very big difference. Heat doesn't deal damage to an enemy, but when the heat meter fills up, the enemy catches on fire. Fire damage is straight damage. It just deals damage over time in addition to that. Me like fire damage. Fire damage good. Yeah. Especially on a gun that, this is one of the only fire options outside of the plasma carbine modifier for that. So this is the one that I run just for the fire damage. So going up to tier 1, you have a choice between a bonus 8 ammo, so this is 4 extra reloads, or you can get an extra 3 damage per pellet. Now, while this is pretty good, and especially because of the fact that this gun has, like, no damage to it. Like, in my opinion, the gun is very low damage for a shotgun. When I think of a shotgun, I think of a close range, one shot, one kill. Yeah, this gun doesn't have that unless you're, like, right in its face. Unless you have your barrel right in the damn thing's mouth, it's not killing it in one shot. However, it also has next to no ammo for it. It actually has less ammo than the Magnum, in my opinion, because it takes more shots to kill than the Magnum does. So either of these options are particularly good. So now we have to go to tier 3. So you have the stun. What this does is it increases your stun chance per pellet from 20% per pellet to 50%. This is basically a guaranteed stun. And it increases the duration of by 3.5 seconds up to 6 seconds. Now, this is great. You can stun a Praetorian for 6 seconds. I don't want to stun a Praetorian. I want to kill it. Here's the thing. Stuns are better on longer range weapons. Because on a long range weapon, you're trying to slow it down before it gets to you so you can kill it at its effective range. Why am I stunning something that is right in my face? If it's right in my face, I want to kill it faster. So in my opinion, unfortunately, this modifier sucks. Just because it's on this gun. It's a tad bit unfortunate. If you do want crowd control and you specifically want to stun instead of, say, penetrations or fear or slow, then yeah, it's alright. This ammo modifier right here is unfortunately the winner in this category, because it gives you 12 bonus ammo. Now that's 6 extra reloads. In my opinion, this is a mandatory pickup for this weapon. This tier right here, you can choose either or on depending your overclock that you're running. A max ammo build right here is 20 extra ammo or 10 extra reloads. Or you can run this for the bonus damage, which is nice. Until you get more damage overclocks for the gun, this is a pretty good build to run just for your overall damage. The pellets adds 3 extra pellets. Now this, believe it or not, can add a significant amount of damage. Without this damage modifier on, if you were to run the pellets and the slightly less ammo, this would make it so that you deal, this deals a ton of damage. This is gonna kill pretty much anything at point blank range. And it's gonna increase your damage over longer ranges as well. This right here is an obliterate everything in your face build. So if you're one of those people who wants like a boss killer type gun, this is the build that I would recommend. Although the overclocks, at least that I have, make it different. So this to me is your ammo dump build. If you're looking for this to be more of a just spray and pray type weapon, this works particularly well if you are running a fear build, by the way. At tier 2, we have a pretty much meaningless choice between faster rate of fire or faster reload. I run faster reload. Faster reload is good. If I need more than 2 shots to kill something in my face, I can reload in less time than it takes to fire those 2 shots. With this, you reload an insane rate of fire. You get 9 shots off per second. Problem, it's a 2-shot gun. This one is meaningless. I think they should just get rid of this, unless they have an automatic fire option where you just pull the trigger once and it unloads both barrels at the same time. You remember, you have to manually pull the trigger. So, at tier 4, you actually have your most meaningful impact. So let's talk about the trash one. This is the improved blast wave. What this does is it extends the area to 4 meters in front of you, from 1.4 to 4. That's pretty significant. It also deals a bonus 20 damage, so it's 40 damage in total of shockwave damage. This is nice. If this were right here, I would take it. No questions asked. Problem, you stacked it against 2 of the best modifiers on this gun. Like, better than overclock modifiers. Armor break for 400% armor break. Now, this is enough to one-shot break medium armor. So this allows you to basically just pop a Praetorian in the back, and now it's like it was a grunt with slightly more health. So this is great. This is what I primarily run, because most of the primary weapons do not do a great job on armor break outside the deep core. The other option you have are super blow-through rounds. Now, this is really good, believe it or not. These are really good. This makes this the only crowd-killing weapon. If you run this, each pellet will fire through and deal through 3 enemies in a row. This is great for crowds. The downside to this, though, is most of the weapons that you have deal with small crowds pretty good. I'm not really a big fan of this. It's really good, but I don't run it. So these 2 modifiers are both good. These 2 modifiers are both good. And these 2 modifiers are both good, depending on what you choose. Just putting my overclocks on real quick. The jumbo shells is primarily what I run, so I can run up a more ammo build. The stuffed shells is primarily what I would run if I want to run lower ammo to begin with. I mean, this is just a nice buff. So, just putting my build back together. This, to me, makes the gun feel like, you know, an actual shotgun. So, that's the main reason why I run this. But, for the most part, yeah. In terms of what you should pair this with, in my opinion, it's pretty much mandatory to pair this with either the Deep Core or the M1 Classic. I would not pair this with the Plasma Carbine at all. And if you're pairing this with the Scout Rifle, you do need to understand you're going to run out of ammo a lot. Like, I would not recommend that. I'm going to recommend it on the Deep Core, and that's pretty much it. Overall, it unfortunately feels like a pretty weak weapon unless you build it for a very specific purpose. So, it's one of those things that I primarily run the Zhukovs once you get them unlocked, and you're going to stick with that for the most part. It can be a nice weapon to run. If you get the overclock for it that you can shoot the ground and it gives you a rocket jump, then you're going to run this as an extra mobility tool. But if you do it like that, your primary weapon becomes that much more important to you. So, in my opinion, it's one of the weaker options to choose from for the Scout.